Let's talk to Benedict Spence, political commentator, a man who speaks a great deal of common sense. Benedict, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Who would have thought, I'm very well, thank you, who would have thought the NHS workers would come back for more money from the government? And who would have thought that consultants can't seem to scrape by on a six-figure salary?
Especially after the government was so keen to do deals with everybody.
Yes.
It's entirely a mystery as to how this has ended up happening. I must say that there is a problem with our medical sector in terms of pay, and that is simply that they speak English. And they can see the lives of their counterparts in people in Canada and Australia and the United States, where, to be fair, they are paid an awful lot more, even than our doctors and nurses are. And the thing is, in a world where everything is globalized and migration has been encouraged, a lot of our doctors and nurses sort of look at those fees and those wages and they think, well, why can't I have that? And the reality is, of course, this country is no longer very wealthy in comparison to a lot of these other places. We also have a very different system in terms of it being state-run, entirely centralized, rather than being privatized or partially privatized. So it's never going to be the case that we can afford to give them these wages. But nonetheless, you know, they've been told that this is the sort of thing that everybody should be allowed to do. You should just be able to sort of freely come and go as you please. And so they look at their peer competitors, and they look at many of their competitors in the NHS who are going over there, and they say, well, why can't I have a bit of that as well?
Yes, and that's all very well, but, you know, in the end, somebody has to say enough is enough in the NHS, don't they? Doesn't somebody have to get to grips with it? I mean, Keir Starmer just the other day was asked, what's your greatest achievement been in the first year that you've been Prime Minister? And he said, well, we promised to get 2 million appointments in the NHS made, and we've actually done better than that. We've had 3 million. And everybody just kind of had a collective sigh and just went, well, you might be making more appointments, but they're only because they've cancelled all the other appointments, and you're not actually moving the waiting list at all. You're just moving people off one waiting list and moving them on to another one. Everybody knows the NHS is in absolute and utter decline and doesn't work by and large for anybody. So at what point will somebody get to grips with that and actually say, we need to reform it?
Yeah. You have to say that most people tend to get paid, not just in terms of the role that they perform, but in terms of their actual performance in that role. If you do a very good job, you're more likely to be able to get more money down the line. And the NHS is not doing a very good job of almost anything, actually, at the moment. So, you know, you can't then turn around and say, well, we deserve it based on previous performance, or that this money would necessarily motivate us to work harder, because I think most people will be sat there going, well, it's already a bit of a mess, you ought to be working much harder. But the other thing, of course, is because it is a centralized state-run operation, the amount of money that should be available to it is based on the performance of the economy in general, as a reflection of the economy and of government policies to allow businesses to grow and allow wealth to be created. We aren't doing a very good job of that. So actually, if you have a situation, if you have a system where actually the primary motivation of this government is to tax people first, rather than allow wealth to accrue, wealth that actually can be taxed rather than on properties and the like, well, you are going to have less money that you're able to pay to doctors and nurses. And I don't understand why people still aren't getting this. There still seems to be this desire to kill growth almost in the nest, rather than allow it to happen so that you can pay people in the public sector.
But isn't it fundamentally because they don't understand economics? Because you've got Rachel Reeves, who doesn't seem to understand that if you tax people up the wazoo, one, they will decide to try and avoid paying that tax the best way they can legally. Two, they might leave the country if they're really going to be taxed a lot. Or three, they will start to make less money. I mean, I spoke to a guy the other day who said he had a very successful company. He's now split it down into 3 smaller companies in order to avoid paying VAT. So he's brought them all down below the VAT threshold. You know, people do these kinds of things because they're smart business people. So instead of actually increasing the revenue to the exchequer, the revenue to the exchequer has gone down.
Oh, yeah, and the complexities of the tax system in this country are just beyond belief, actually. How difficult it is becoming for people. I have always been of the opinion that HMRC would probably earn a lot more money from businesses and the like if they simplified the whole thing and they had fewer incentives for people not to pay, because people aren't paying because, you know, they're all sort of greedy, evil capitalists.
No.
They're doing it because the amount of money they're asked to pay is astronomical, and there is a sense of unfairness because it sort of creeps in through many different ways. If everything was very flat and upfront, I actually suspect a lot more people, business people and the like, would go, yeah, fair enough, that
Yeah.
does it, that seems fair enough, and you've made my life easier. But actually, if you don't do that, if you're going to make it difficult, you incentivize people to go, maybe not.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a pretty simple cause and effect, isn't it? I mean, they've pretty much killed off the housing market for the moment. It may change, but at the moment, the problem for people is, you know, if they were thinking of moving house, the stamp duty has gone up by such an extent. I was talking to somebody the other day who said they were thinking, and obviously it's in the southeast where houses are very, very expensive. 1 in 20 homes now cost over £1 million, according to a piece in the Sun. This guy was saying, I was thinking of moving house. You know, don't have a massive house, but the stamp duty alone, which has now been increased to such a ridiculous extent, would have been £68,000. You know, and he said, you know, it's not that I'm a millionaire. He said, I simply can't afford to do that, so I'm not going to move, and I'm not going to. So you know, the housing market remains static as a result of that, because people who would otherwise have thought about moving are just not doing it.
Yeah, and I mean, especially also at a time when younger people are wanting to get on the housing ladder to be able to start families, have children, all that sort of thing. The sheer number of older people who probably would quite like to downsize, who are being put off because they're going to be hit with a huge tax bill, which in many cases will wipe out an awful lot of the accrued money that they thought that they were going to get through the increase in the value of their property, which, to be clear, many pensioners were not sort of sat there thinking, well, I'm going to take this money and I'm going to go on a perpetual cruise drinking champagne for the rest of my life. They were thinking, this is what I'm going to live on in my old age. To then have the government sort of sweep in, almost in a cape and a mask, and go, ha, that's ours now. Well, you're not going to incentivize people to move for that at all. It would be stupid to do that.
No, of course. Breaking news, by the way, sales at UK retailers were down last month as spending on food and clothing dipped. The Office for National Statistics said the total volume of retail sales fell by 2.7% in May. That's quite a big drop, isn't it?
It is, and it's all reflective. We've had this sort of very anemic growth, and you have sort of ups and downs of spending in very small quantities, always sort of in the low single digits. All of this, I'm afraid, is a sign of a country that is in a perpetual, very shallow, but very much there, recession. If people are not spending even, you know, sort of above the very low levels that they were spending before, and you sort of tie that into economic growth, we had that sort of bumper month, I think it was in April, where it sort of went up 0.4% or something, and everybody was going, oh, isn't that fantastic? And you think, it's not really. These aren't margins that businesses can really use to operate on beyond sort of just treading water.
No, absolutely right. And I mean, look at the state of the nation when it comes to this not winter fuel allowance. It's the warm homes discount. I'm going to play you a little video that Keir Starmer put out yesterday. They found some hapless woman somewhere in the country who wanted to welcome him into her home. Check this out.
Nicola, nice to see you. How are you?
Yeah.
We've got this really, what I think is a fantastic announcement today, which is the extension of the warm homes discount to another nearly 3 million people. So that'd be 6 million in all, £150 off the bill.
Yeah, so it will make a massive difference to me. So through the winter months, obviously, like most people, it's the most difficult with gas and electric. I've got a smart meter. I also have an app on the phone. So
this is your smart meter, right? Okay, look at this. And so this 150 will make a big difference.
You know, sort of £30 or £40 a month, really, that's going to be massive.
So which bit was Imogen doing? She was helping you tidy up?
Oh, yeah, and we even got soapy water and we were scrubbing all.
No.
Yeah, we did.
Really pleased for the opportunity to be able to talk to him, and the reason, obviously, for the visit today was to come out and speak to just normal, everyday people, and I'm one of those. So I'm a working parent, 3 children, I work in education. He just seemed really personable. He listened. So I think it's great that that's going to be available for people no matter what.
And as somebody pointed out earlier, she says 30 or 40 quid a month would be great, but it's actually not 30 or 40 quid a month, it's £150 a year, which is more like sort of 12 or 13 quid a month.
Yeah.
They didn't even check that before they put it out.
And in addition to that, you think, my word, what a miserable situation where you've got the government going, well, here you are, here's this 150 quid, which we're going to say is this, and people go, oh, thank you, 3 bags full, sir, isn't this fantastic? Most people will be sat there going, that is going to make such a small dent in my life. Actually, what I need is so much more support. And it isn't that people are saying necessarily to the government, please give us money. They're saying, get out of our way.
Right.
Stop taking so much money of our money in the first place. And I mean, yeah, I'm very glad for this individual who seems so unbelievably welcoming to the Prime Minister. I'm sure she's not a member of the Labour Party or an activist at all.
No, absolutely
For many
not.
other people, they will be looking at this and going, this is very patronising.
Yeah, absolutely right. Benedict, good to speak to you. Thank you very much indeed. Benedict Spence, their political commentator.